I've been working on and we've been working on is going through stuff that happened in 2008. We've talked about it here on the podcast before, talking about how you can be prepared for a market shift. And one thing we have been reflecting on is when the market shifted and financing really wasn't an option. And if you didn't have the cash sitting around, it was very difficult to get into the real estate game. And one thing you're really good at, Ron, is pivoting and seeing opportunity. You have more of a creative mind that way. It's super helpful. And I remember you pivoted back then in 2008 when it was harder for us to be able to have clients purchase rental properties, which was our core business. We pivoted. Tell us a little bit. I don't know the background on a lot of that, honestly. So,
yeah, I mean, we knew that when the market drops, that you need to be able to buy, right? We knew that, and we knew that. We had clients who wanted to buy. We also had some clients who were absolutely scared to death because everything could happen. I mean, there were so many who were just scared to death. But it was, there was no money really. Like you couldn't, like right now, everybody's complaining about the interest rates went up 0.5 point. Well, back then there was no investment property loans.
Yeah.
So you had to pay cash for everything. And unless you had a lot of cash, it was really difficult to play in the space. And here we are in a 9, 10, 11, 12, where you could buy properties for pennies on the dollar. A, most people were scared to death. B, most people didn't have the cash to be able to buy more than a couple, maybe 1, 2. So it really wasn't very scalable like it is now. And in addition to that, there was, we found these lots. There was land, and land had actually, it kind of lagged behind the houses. And so it didn't go back to the bank as quickly. But once it went back to the bank, there were huge tranches of land that was developed. I mean, it was, same thing as buying a house. You get all the sticks and bricks and you get all the stuff, right? All that stuff costs money. And even if the value of the home, because, of the market went down, all of the stuff in there is still worth intrinsic value. And it's the same exact thing with development, because you put in streets and you put in utilities and, you move the dirt to make it look the way you're supposed to, and you plant trees, you do all of this stuff to make these subdivisions look really nice. And now here's these subdivisions that are not built out anymore. Mm-hmm. And so we knew that there was value there. We knew that you could buy these things for even fewer pennies on the dollar than the houses, believe it or not. And so we went out and tried to figure out how to buy them and how to market them to our clients. And that's what we did. So we were also selling houses, but we sold a lot of land, an enormous amount of land. And, we thought that the market would turn around way faster than it did. But it didn't, because in most downturns, it comes back relatively quickly. A few years, it's back. Well, this didn't happen because the government really jumped in and screwed everything up. We've talked about that on the show ad nauseum, what the government did. But it's one of those things like the house, right? It didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen, but we knew there was intrinsic value in the land. And so it took a lot longer than we thought it was going to take for the land to actually come back to being worth what it should be worth. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
I was not involved in the big picture as much as I am now, but back then I was more involved in the day-to-day. So I was involved in creating all the marketing materials and stuff for these pieces of land. And it was really interesting because, we sold several hundred. I haven't pulled those numbers recently, but hundreds of pieces of land. I own like 5 or 6. I think I sold one a couple of years ago. So we all drank the Kool-Aid, right? We were buying the land too, selling them to clients, and people reaching out over the years because we said, about a 5 to 10 year projection is what we thought, right? Based on all the information that we had. And it took a little longer. We kept clients informed as best we could. And in the last couple of years, we've seen a shift. And one of the places where we sold those lots, because there were several locations, was Bella Vista, Arkansas. And it's been really interesting because I went on my RV trip in 2020, as most listeners know, was across the country for 2 months living out of an RV. And I stopped in Bella Vista and loved it, first of all. It's a very cool place. I came back to camp. Sorry, that's where the RV was, because I had left my family for the day to go up to Bella Vista and came back to camp. And I told my husband, I'm like, I could live here. Like, I could live in Bella Vista. It was that beautiful. And just every kind of major company seemed to be there, right? Shopping and all the major necessities, but also kind of spread out and not super busy city, which I thought was really cool. So anyway, I think it's interesting because as we started with that, hey, when things don't go your way, that, you still find a way. Usually in real estate, there's ways to get creative, which is one thing that makes real estate a little unique that you can.
And that particular area too is kind of, this is really close to Walmart's headquarters. The area is growing like crazy before the downturn. Post downturn, it still continued to grow pretty crazy, compared to most areas. Now it's absolutely on fire and it's spilled up into Bella Vista, which is what we thought it would do. It just took a long time. And that we had talked about this bypass that had, the financing was actually in place between Missouri and Arkansas. It was supposed to connect and bypass and go around because they had a smaller road that went down through the middle of Bella Vista. It would make the west side way more accessible. We bought heavily on that west side because of that. And then both governments ran out of money.
That was so funny.
People would email us, hey, when's the bypass going to be done? No clue. I have no idea. Yeah. But Missouri ran out of money. They didn't allocate the money to the right spot. Anyway, yeah. It's finally done.
Yeah, official. And then when I was there, it was still under construction, the junction there, coming south of Bella Vista. So what I was told by a local agent there is that it was like California traffic at rush hour going through Bella Vista, because it's the main freeway crossing the border from Missouri, goes straight through the middle of Bella Vista.
Yep. And then you've got all the people going home after work, plus all of the people that are driving through there. It was a really frustrating spot because Missouri, you came down on a freeway and then you just slammed the brakes into this little country road thing. So the bypass was really necessary. And, the plans were already in, before the crash, and it should have been built. But again, you don't have any control over that either. Right. Yep. But now it is. And so it just took a little bit longer. The good news is that, those lots were very inexpensive. They're inexpensive to hold, inexpensive to purchase.